Hey, this is Trisha Schmalhofer here with BAM, Badasses, Alchemists, and Mystics. I'm here today in the studio with Mike Williams, and he is the owner of No Limits Fitness Boot Camp and also Digitally Fit Marketing. Say hi, Mike.
How are you doing?
Good.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad for you being here. I've known Mike for probably like 4 years now, 3 or 4.
I think it's 4, yeah.
Yeah, and I just started my business called Med Healers, and we were working with a similar marketing company at the time, the same. And when I first kind of got out there, he notified me. He's like, "Hey, I want you to come do a workshop in my gym." And I'm like, he doesn't even know me, but cool. So I did one, and then several more, and we've just done some collaborative stuff together, and I just think he's a wonderful, not only business owner, but human. And he's really good at connecting people and networking and seeing what people's like talents and gifts are and getting them together. And I've worked out at his facility, No Limits Fitness. And what I love about it, it's very supportive, challenging, but it has this family atmosphere. Like, you feel like you're part of a community of people.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's my impression with you.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. So welcome.
Thank you.
What else do you want to say about yourself? What's your story, Mike?
Well, it's how I got started with No Limits Fitness is it's not this overly inspiring story. It actually happened on accident. Okay. So, my wife Tina, and so we owned her salon, and there were several trainers that were clients of hers, and basically the thought was we would take the business model that we had for the salon, and we thought we'd open a gym that way. And it lasted for about 2 weeks, and it completely fell apart, and that's how I got involved, and because I financially had, I backed the lease for 5 years, and so I only had 4 years and 50 weeks to go, and kind of had to figure it out. But I got involved, and then that led to me getting certified and going down that road and becoming a fitness business owner. But a lot of times our fitness business owners will have already been trainers. They were already in the industry, and they decided to go out on their own. And it's not the road as to how I got started. So a little bit of a different path, but kind of a trial by fire, and then fell in love with it while I was burning.
So the model you have now with the boot camp type style was not how you started?
No.
What was the model that didn't work?
It was more of a group fitness, and so it was a little bit of like a hodgepodge of everything. There was Zumba, yoga. Fitness was involved with it as well. But there was a morning boot camp that we had, and that was the most successful thing that we were doing. And just made the decision to basically cut everything else that was there, and it's not to make the business model work. And so we took that completely across the business model, the piece we had in the morning, and provided a lot of flexibility for busy adults. Some people could work out in the morning. Some were more flexible and they needed the evening times. And so I think we have 8 sessions a day now, Monday through Thursday, 7 on Friday, and then we're open Saturday and Sunday as well.
Oh.
So for the most part, we can fit just about anybody's schedule. So at least we can remove that obstacle up front.
Right. And the way that the facility's set up, it's a lot of open space, and you have a TRX machine, or a TRX setup frame, and that has like straps, and there's things that I know
we've added so much stuff too since the last time you were in. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna say what I remember, and then tell me what you've added. Yeah. So, and then it's the kind of style of workout where you have kettlebells and the ropes and the tires and the big medicine balls, and I remember going on a Saturday once. For a while I was going like not the earliest time, like those crazy people that are there at like 5 a.m. and they're like, yeah, but I'd go like to the next time, and yeah, the sun was coming up when I was coming home, and it did feel good. It felt good that, hey, I already got my workout in. But I went on a Saturday. It was like a holiday. And you did something different that day. And we're going to go into why community makes it, it helps kind of move you along. But that day you put us on teams. And we had to all work together, and we did like a little competition, and that really pushed me harder. And I remember thinking, yeah, this was fun. It actually made it fun. And for me for workouts to become fun is like a big deal. So
it can be a challenge for some people.
What else did you add?
We've added some more sleds. There's some rowers. There's a bunch of other like components that we've added. So we're more of a functional fitness facility. We do a lot of HIIT training, which is your high intensity interval training, but we're constantly adding just more components.
So what's a sled?
So it's a sled where you can either push it or pull it, but you can weight it significantly heavier than than some of the other things. But it allows you to you get some more when you're pushing it, you can, or your posterior chain, put more of your legs, your glutes, things like that.
So why is that way? Is that way of working out better than going and actually just lifting free weights? And is it better, or is it just different?
Well, I don't ever like to say that one thing is better than another. A lot of it comes down to what do you enjoy. And so if you really hate running, joining a running club is going to be a bad idea for you. I don't care what the benefits of running are. If you hate it, it's a bad idea for you as a person. The main reason we train this way, I don't like training on machines. Most people in our society now, we sit down too long. We sit down all day, make sure hip flexors tight, make sure glutes loose. Yeah. And so a lot of times when people, they go to stand up from sitting all day and they think it's their back. It's not their back. It's something else. Mm-hmm. But we try to help people move through that. So the concept of sitting down all day and then going to the gym and sitting down to work out is so just odd to me. It doesn't make sense. But we're more about, our goal is to help you. How can I help you from a training standpoint better meet your needs and obligations in your daily life? And for most people, like a bench press, which is a standard exercise that a lot of people would do, unless you find yourself under a car that is not supported by a jack and you've got to push it off of you, it doesn't have a whole lot of application.
Right.
And so that's not a basic movement that we would have, but that's normally a move that people would put into your standard workout. Most of our stuff is using free weights, but it's going through a lot of the basic movements, so we can help somebody move better in their everyday life.
Okay. So that makes sense. If you're moving people through movements that they're mimicking in their everyday life, they're going to develop those muscles that they're using all the time.
Correct.
So is there a difference between CrossFit and the boot camp style?
So CrossFit's a brand, and so they have their own ways of training, and there's a lot of things that are, and it's got a stigma to it. So some people they're pro CrossFit or they're anti CrossFit, and that doesn't always mean that they're informed. But there's a lot of great things about CrossFit. We're not CrossFit. So it's a brand.
Okay.
They have some functional fitness and some metabolic training and things like that they do as well. We're different in that we don't have Olympic movements. We're not affiliated overall with the CrossFit brand, but they both will incorporate like HIIT training or metabolic conditioning and things like that. CrossFit is a brand unto itself, though. You
said this twice. Is it HIIT training or hip training?
What
is that?
That's the high intensity interval training.
Okay, is that the same as the HIIV?
It's HIIT.
Oh, training, not V. Okay, so yeah, I've been seeing a lot about that. So what is that?
So it's a form of training where you've got alternating periods of like really, really intense work periods followed by rest periods. And there's all kinds of different protocols and things like that people will use with that training. One of the most popular ones was from a Japanese scientist, Tabata, and that's 20 seconds of activity followed by 10 seconds rest. And I'm sure you remember some of those. those
I
workouts.
don't know if you were doing that when I was coming. I saw one thing also that I really like about your Facebook page is you do a lot of videos, and you had a trainer showing the interval training and what that was like, and yeah, it was like bursts of really high activity for 20 seconds and then rest and then another burst. So that's just, there's some science behind that of what, for endurance or strength or
for both, but they get into like exercise post oxygen consumption. You'll hear a lot of fitness professionals talk about things like that, but it's to improve your conditioning, but it allows you to get you're getting more work capacity done in a shorter period of time. Most people these days don't have 90 minutes or more to spend in the gym, and through HIIT training, you can accomplish a lot in less than 30 minutes.
Okay. Good. That's for people that are like in a hurry, you know?
That's most people these days.
Yes, it does seem to be. Yeah.
Well, I remember, it's so funny. I remember growing up that would wake up for school in the morning, and my dad would read the paper every day, and he had to read the paper front to back. And sports was always section C, and I always wanted to read that. But I couldn't read it until after he read it. Like the words were going to come off the paper or something like that. But it was this leisurely morning that doesn't exist anymore. Like nobody has that kind of time. And that's like, but that's one of the biggest fallacies, that we kind of, we're busier than ever, but we get less done. And that's sort of where like the American culture has gone. But this form of training, it helps that, because we can try to find some, even if they have the busiest of busy schedules, we all get 24 hours in a day. We're going to try to find you, how do we incorporate this so that you can, take your existing lifestyle? How can you fit a little bit more health and fitness? How can you improve a little bit and start your journey to, living a healthier life?
That's right. I know, like in the spiritual circles that I run, it's really big to have your morning routine. Like your dad read his paper, you sat. I try to do my meditation. I try to do some kind of movement, and then read and journal. Like that's my morning. But if I pick up a device, sorry, I just hit the thing. If I pick up my phone or my iPad, all bets are off. I get out of my routine, so I have to leave that down and make sure that I make that a priority. So it's the same with if someone wants to improve their health or fitness, they have to make that a priority, part of their self-care.
But those devices are so compulsive, and that's one of the things that I had to. But coming out of the corporate world, it was I could wake up and there were problems every day. One of the first things one of the habits I've grown into now is I will not check my email or anything like that. I won't check the device for the first 30 minutes I'm awake. Won't touch it, because but it does. It sets you down a path, and if there's something negative that's there, it can set the tone for your day.
Totally.
And I just don't want it. And
so I call it the phone vortex or the Facebook vortex. It's like you get on there, you forget why you picked it up to begin with, and then you get sucked into that. So you, like what you just said before that, is we're the busiest we've ever been, but we're busy, we're not productive. Right. Because do you think the devices and social media and all that?
All that stuff is made to be addicted.
It is.
And just like a supermarket where they put certain things at the checkout, that's on purpose.
Of course it is. There's a whole psychology behind all that.
Yeah, because on the back of aisle 7, Tic Tacs are a lot less. It's not that. It doesn't make you want to pick it up.
Right.
But when you put it right there, and like all the chocolate and the candy is eye level for a kid, oh yeah, they're gonna want it.
Yeah.
So it's done on purpose. Same thing with social media. Like when they make subtle adjustments to Facebook, and all of a sudden it looks different. Well, it keeps you on there longer because now you're looking at stuff. But all that's done. But the same thing they've done with when you log in first thing in the morning, and it shows you like, hey, here's this picture from 5 years ago, 6 years ago. All that stuff's done for a reason. It keeps you on the platform longer. But even without way getting off on a tangent, but most of the things from a marketing perspective, when on those platforms, you're rewarded for keeping people on the platform longer. That's what makes your content and all that stuff resonate so much more. The longer you can keep somebody active and on that platform, as a marketer, you're much better off. That's how you're rewarded. They show your stuff more. Yes, everything. It's all designed to, because it's in their best interest. It's not designed to make us less productive. It just, that happens to be what comes of it.
Right. Well, and we're going to go to a break, but when we come back, I want to touch on something you said. You could pick up a device and read something that's negative or something that triggers you, and that can set your mindset for the day.
Absolutely.
Can affect everything. So we're going to talk more about that mindset and how important that is to really care for that. You know, self-care for the body, but self-care for the mind is also important. Before we go to break, though, I want to feature a badass event that's coming to town, a money manifesting party with Tasha Chen. Tasha, I worked with her all this year. She is a wonderful mentor coach. This is a 2.5-hour interactive event. Tasha will be walking everyone through the steps to make a powerful manifested board and share techniques for applying the law of attraction and visualization to have your desires manifest with speed. There's one here in Melbourne, Florida. There's one in West Palm, Florida, and then there was one in Jamaica. If you're interested, go to tashachen.com/party. And Tasha will be a guest for a special edition of BAM on Wednesday, 12:15. So stay tuned for that. We'll be back in just a minute.
Hey guys, I'm Steve Vitani, Brevard resident and realtor with RE/MAX Elite. I'm excited to announce my new, very own podcast show, Steve Talks 321. We are on Facebook Live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, talking about the most current real estate trends, hot topics, as well as anything along the Space Coast in Brevard County. I'm excited to share all of the latest happenings throughout Brevard County and also to hear from you. Please like this page, Steve Talks 321, and share this page and podcast with your friends. Thanks a lot. I hope to hear from you guys soon.
You're listening to Space Coast Podcast, home of the greatest podcasts on the Space Coast. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor or having your own show, email us at spacecoastpodcast@hotmail.com. Space Coast Podcast. Talk hard!
Hello, America. We are Ruthless Politics, Vladimir Putin's favorite podcast.
Hello, American podcast listeners. I am Vladimir Putin. I like this podcast. I like this guy Trees. Kid Groening, not so much.
Tune in every Tuesday for Ruthless Politics Podcast, live from Moscow. Just kidding, folks. Live from the Space Coast Podcast Studios in sunny Florida.
No, but for real, every Tuesday, check it out. And you could see it on the YouTube, the Facebook, and the Twitter and Instagram.
All right, we're back. It's Mike Williams here in the studio with me. This is Trisha Schmalhofer. This is Badasses, Alchemists, Mystics, BAM. And I want to invite people that are watching on live, go ahead and type in comments or questions, and we will try to answer those. So we're going to switch into the whole importance of getting your mind right. For fitness, health, and really for life in general. Our mind, we talked about like having that morning self-care routine, and we're talking about fitness in the physical body, but you know, caring for your mind and really regulating what comes in and how you're processing is really important.
Absolutely. So most of us have some degree of head trash going on. I think it's normal where you have, so it's the thoughts you have running between your ears, and it's your own inner voice, is probably one of the most powerful ones you have in your life. And we didn't start our life by being negative. society and whatever it is that we went through growing up leads to that. But a lot of times, like, the worst voice in your own head is your own.
Of course.
And that's what you have to put good stuff in. Because if you're sitting there telling yourself that you can't do something, you can't, or you don't deserve this, you know as well as I do, that's a huge component, and it will bleed over into every aspect of your life.
Mm-hmm. I know, just for me personally, if I, get into a cycle where I'm not moving as much, I'm not doing as much fitness and exercise, and I start to put weight on, if I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh God, look at that, I'm fat, blah, 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 that's not fitting, I'm not going to be likely to get up the next morning and go to the gym or go out kayaking or go for a walk around my neighborhood or do that yoga because I'm in like a depressed state.
Yeah. It's so, we're wired that way. And so many things that we do come back to our habits. And there's, without getting way off on a tangent about how to break a bad habit, but
66 days, not 21
it's not
days.
21.
I just read that in one of your. Oh, Mike has a wonderful newsletter. I just want to shout that out. It's if you go to NoLimitsFitnessFL.com, they can register for it. Yeah. They're you have like such good topics, and the tone that he uses in them are like not comical, but like we're just having a conversation. They're really great newsletter, by the way. But yeah, it's now 66 days, not 21 days. So it takes 66 days to create a new habit.
Yeah, but what kind of goes into that? But I just read the book Atomic Habits.
I haven't read
love
that yet.
that book.
Okay.
Phenomenal read. But one of the things that they had said in there is that your habits are, it's almost like an election. You're going to have votes on either side of the equation. Mm-hmm. Whatever side gets more votes, that's the habit that's going to win out. And so when it comes to like working out, your habit is either you're going consistently or you're not going consistently. So it doesn't mean that you never miss days. Things are going to happen, and that's where you get votes on either side of the equation. But when your identity and your belief and in who you think you are, when more times than not you don't work out, that's going to be your identity. That will be the habit that wins out. So it's really, just because you go 66 days in a row doesn't mean you're
all of a sudden like
right.
cured. No. It's a continuous choice, right? And you're saying you're going to be more apt to choose the one that you do more frequently.
Yeah, and a lot of people, especially when it comes to fitness, people think that there has to be this unyielding motivation. This is not that. I promise you there's days I don't want to get up that early.
Yeah.
But most trainers have days where they don't want to do it. The difference is that they do it anyway, because it's their habit and it's part of their identity and that's what they do. But most things are that way, that it's the action leads to a reaction, and that's what leads to the motivation, the inspiration, and then back to the action. But the action is what starts it all. It's not the motivation.
Right.
Like, the motivation is extremely fleeting. That promise you that's going to go away.
Right. Sometimes in everything in life, you have to do things that even you're not wanting to do. I mean, that could even be meditating. You know, a lot of people don't. It's a practice. I always tell my clients, it's a practice. Like, you have to do it consistently. Same with working out. Yeah. Same with being in a marriage or a relationship. You know, it's like, do you have a habit of not communicating with each other, or do you have a habit of sitting down and,
Right.
It's the same thing.
I know, because everyone always looks at my wife. They're like, "Oh, you have it so easy. You're married to him." Maybe it's not that easy. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm a handful. You never know.
Yeah, I think you might be.
You think?
And your wife Tina is fabulous, by the way. I just love her. I tried to get her on the show too, because she works her own business, and I was like, let's get you on as a power couple. But so talking about getting these good habits going. And, we're coming into the new year, and there's always like the New Year's resolution. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to get better. I'm going to get healthier. So what is it, like we talked about this goal of 1%. What is the goal of 1%? For
a lot of people, regardless of what the habit is or what they're trying to change, there's there's a huge all or nothing mindset. That is the ultimate recipe for disaster. It just doesn't end well. And so the goal of 1% is how do you make small changes to what you're currently doing so that you can hold on to them, and then you can stack on top of them. And that, like, but if you can improve 1% every day, you get radical changes by the end of the year. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't. But let's say, just for example, with the way somebody's eating, if they're eating out 3 times a day, and so they're making bad choices for everything they put in their body, they're not going to suddenly, like, tomorrow flip a switch and start, like, making phenomenal choices, and they'll be the best, most religious person with their nutrition. That doesn't happen. It won't last. So at the first sign, the first obstacle, they're going to go right back to what they know, because their identity, they've got more votes on their election kind of for the other way. And it's too easy to fall off. But if you can start out really small, how can you make your breakfast better? And start like addressing it that way. And once you really feel like you've got your breakfast kind of under your belt and you've got a better grasp of that, you can move on to lunch, you can move on to dinner, and you can like progressively make changes, not go from one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum, which is what most people attempt. And that's a big part of what comes in January. So if you're sitting here at the beginning of December thinking that, well, in January I'm going to do all this,
right?
That's the biggest load of crap you've ever told yourself. It doesn't happen. Well,
because you're going from being sedentary and no fitness to all of a sudden I'm going to go to the gym every day, and it's like that's not 1%, that's 100% change.
That's the person that when they get started and then something goes wrong, and then it goes wrong on Monday. I'm like, well, you know what? Next Monday.
Right.
I'm like, but that comes into the head trash that you have,
right? The
lies that you tell yourself, and we can rationalize just about anything.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. And so it's making those small changes. And I know, like, when I do it that way, I start to notice, hey, I have more energy, or I'm feeling better, or I haven't gotten sick in a while, or, there's little changes in the body, or even just if it is like I'm going to meditate more, it's like I miss a day. Oh, well, I'm going to just do it tomorrow, because I know that I handle stress better. My emotions are a little more stable. Mm-hmm. And same with a movement regimen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you mentioned earlier about the community, and so I've done a lot of reading on this, and I don't know why we're wired this way, but we are, me included. But I'm more apt to let myself down, and so I'll have less integrity with myself than I would with you. But like meeting you here today, I'd be crushed if something happened and I wasn't here. Like if I didn't do something I said I was going to do for you, there's no way I'm going to let that happen. Mm-hmm. But if I tell myself, you know what, I'll get this done tomorrow, and then tomorrow comes, I'm like, I think Wednesday's a better day, and then I start the whole process of rationalizing my own procrastination.
Right.
Why are we wired that way? And so when you have that community is sort of like interwoven to everything that we do at No Limits Fitness, it's a big part of it is because you're less likely to let somebody else down, and so they all get and I know Davina, but she gets assigned to everyone as their personal accountability coach, and she checks in with everybody, because a lot of them you'll quit on you before you quit on her.
Right.
Why are we wired that way? I don't have all the answers to that. I just know that it's very, very fundamental to like the human condition. That's how we are.
I don't know if it starts back, and there's a lot of research on that. I don't have it in front of me, but maybe it's that, when we're growing up, we're taught to respect people, or it's our schooling, or, it's like getting the good grades and you want the accolades, and it's, you don't want to let your parents down. I'm not really sure, but if you have an accountability partner or someone that, I know that's how it is for me. Like I can talk myself out of doing something, but if I've committed to someone else, there's no chance that I'm going to say no unless I'm like,
well, it's a big part.
Dying,
but even for everything in business, I have an accountability partner for that. I've got a business coach.
Smart.
All that, but when it comes to like your own personal goals, by putting it out there, but if you write it down. There's all these studies that if you write down your goals, how much more likely you are to achieve them. But if you have like regular accountability with another person, that like isn't like directly overseeing like your results or anything like that, but you've got that direct accountability with somebody else, and you've had to communicate your goals to them, that absolutely radically increases the likelihood that you're actually going to get there.
Yeah.
Just because you're committed, and it comes back to that whole thing, because I'd rather, it's like if my goal is to lose 20 pounds, oh my God, I really don't want like Trisha to know that this was my goal and I failed. If I know that was my goal and I'm like, whatever, I'll just make it my goal for next year.
Right.
But
I know, like, if I'm going to I just got on the scale and did it by myself, but for data, but I avoided it for a while. But I know if I get on the scale in front of other people, for one, it's like, oh my God, what are they going to think? But it's now I'm making a commitment when someone else is there and witness what my weight is. It's like, and they know what my goal is, that I want to lose this amount of weight, then you're right. It's like a healthy amount of pressure. It's like
it is, there's so much, because I'm so anti-scale when it comes to that, because I'm more about the body composition than I am about the weight. And for so many people, they'll step on the scale first thing in the morning, and when they're frustrated, and it sets the tone for their day.
It really does. Well, let's continue with this. We got to go to another break, but I want to talk about that because, people are addicted to their scale, and that can be damaging. That can really mess with your mindset. All right, but before we go to the second break, another badass event coming up is the Annie Oakley Festival in Palm Bay, Florida, and that is going to be Saturday, February 8th, 2020. And there are so many exciting activities lined up for this. The SWAT experience is where you clear a house with air rifles with the Palm Bay Police Department SWAT team. There's an opportunity to train to shoot all kinds of firearms, including an AR-15, if you just want to experience what that's like. And also just added is tomahawk throwing. The Backyard in Palm Shores is going to be doing that. And I think it's like axe throwing. That's kind of a big thing right now, but they're calling it tomahawk throwing because it's, Annie Oakley time. And this event is created and run by Femme Fatale Arms and Training, Maria Dockery, who's in the picture for those watching the video. And it's to support local organizations and charities. If you want to know more, go to ladiesgunstore.com or call 321-327-3790, especially if you think you have a badass kind of fun experience that you might want to get added to the Annie Oakley Festival. So we'll be right back.
Hey there, this is Jesse Hull, and I want to remind you to tune into Business Elite Brevard Edition. And what we do on Business Elite Brevard Edition is bring to you some of the biggest movers and shakers on the Space Coast. These could be industry leaders, tech innovators, and social influencers. And what we do is kind of bring them on, ask them some of the most relevant questions that you may not know about. And these are people who may not be in the news, but they are making moves behind the scenes. Again, tune in. Business Elite Brevard Edition.
All right. This is Doug Monda.
This is Karen Monda.
And Chris Hadaway.
And we're the host of Survive, the new podcast brought to you by the Survive First Foundation, a nonprofit organization assisting first responders and their families in need of mental health support due to the lifestyle of being a first responder. So, Chris, tell us what we're going to have.
We're coming to you from retired and active law enforcement officers as well as their spouses to discuss the responder life.
Don't forget, this is an unedited and raw podcast, so we need your interactive suggestions and advice to help us help others.
So find us live on our Survive First Facebook page and join in the conversation, or find us on demand on Spotify, iTunes, or anywhere you listen to podcasts from the Space Coast Podcast Network to you.
All right, we're back with BAM, Badasses Alchemist Mystics. Trisha Schmalhofer here with Mike Williams. And Mike's the owner of No Limits Fitness here in West Melbourne, Florida. And he also has another business, which we're going to talk about, called Digitally Fit.
Mm-hmm.
And you're doing marketing for other gyms and fitness facilities. But before we talk about Digitally Fit and why you segued into that, let's talk about, we were talking about mindfulness, setting the mind, and I wanted to talk about, I got this special edition of Time magazine, and it was called The Science of Stress. It's actually a really good edition. They talk about the different, just various parts of the body and the mind and how we deal with stress. And there's one article that talks about that some stress is actually good, and they call it the challenge response. And that's like when you are working out and you're getting your body into a healthy stress response where you're meeting challenges and you're setting goals, and like the blood flows different, the heart pumps differently, the mind and the endorphins and the hormones are different. But what can happen is, talking about mindset, if it goes into a threat response, which is that flight or fight, that is really just a change in your mind. It's assessing a situation as danger or threat, or that you don't have enough resources, or that you don't have the skills to do it. So really what you had said about that 1% and kind of easing into it and gradually increasing your fitness levels or gradually making changes will keep you kind of in that challenge response of meeting the goals, and it actually increases your health.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to go from someone, if you're not going to take somebody from, if they've not been active for 20 years, they're not going to be an Olympic athlete in a week. But we've seen, like, time after time, people accomplish incredible things by following that goal of 1%, just trying to get better every single day, every single week, every month. And that, it just snowballs. But it doesn't happen overnight. It's kind of like the, I'm an overnight success. It just took me 10 years to get here.
Yeah, I've heard that quote. Yeah. And one of the other things we talked about is more of something isn't always better, especially when it comes to health and fitness. Is it along that same line?
Yeah. So for Thanksgiving, more dessert wasn't better either.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
No. But a lot of times people will think it's more exercise is better, and it's not. We don't need to train 6-7 days a week. If you get yourself to that point and that's what you enjoy, then yes. But if you haven't worked out for a decade, when you start back slow, you don't need to don't jump all in. That's where people just go wrong, and they think that like more exercise isn't like, with the stress, you're putting too much stress on the body. Like, your body has to get used, to a certain level of stress before you can start adding more. But if you just jump right off the deep end, and if I try to take, like Michael Phelps, like his, what he does for his swimming conditioning, I'd probably drown.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't be healthy for most of us.
And it's going to put you into that trauma response.
Exactly.
Your body's going to fail. Your muscles, you're not going to be able to walk the next day. Yeah, you could end up drowning. Of course, you're not going to keep going with your training. Or it's people that like sign up for marathons and then they don't train, and then they try to run like a marathon or a half marathon, and then they're dying,
And one of the big ones are obstacle course races right now.
Yeah.
You'll see a lot of people get hurt with those
mud runs,
that they haven't trained for that. So a lot of our functional fitness will get somebody prepared for those races. But if they've not been doing anything to go out there, you're pretty much set up for failure on those. You may enjoy the experience overall, but if you're really trying to, from a performance standpoint, beat the obstacles, you're going to struggle.
Right. So the functional fitness, is that kind of a new term that's out right now?
It's been around for a while.
Has it?
Yeah.
And it's just showing your training and movements that you're going to use in everyday life? Is that what that means? Okay. Yeah, because you've mentioned that a couple times and I haven't heard of it. So, okay. So talking a little bit more about community, like you, in our prep for the podcast, you gave me a quote, and then I ended up seeing it again on Facebook just this morning. So that was like a sign.
Well, if you saw it on Facebook, it has to be good.
It does. And it was under like a Steve Jobs post. So I don't know if he actually said this quote, but you weren't sure. But doing everything yourself limits your potential. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, let's go together. Mm-hmm. And then coaches, mentors, and systems accelerate your results. So if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, let's go together.
Exactly.
So explain that.
So when I first started with No Limits Fitness, and everything was on me, and I did every aspect of that.
You did everything.
So I was doing all the things. And it keeps you from doing the things that matter the most, the things that, like everybody's qualified to, sweep a floor. We can all do it.
Yeah.
But I found myself doing all those things, but I didn't know, and I didn't know how to ask for help. And then the minute you can start, like, harnessing the power of a team, getting more than one person, like moving in the right direction, it accelerates their growth so much more. But we're not born business owners like your traditional school system. It turns out great employees. It doesn't turn out great business owners. Mm-hmm. So where do you go to learn how to do all these things? And a lot of business owners don't know how to do them, and that's where like business coaching can be incredibly beneficial from somebody who's they've already figured that out. But if you're going to learn how to like change your oil, go learn how to do it from somebody that already knows how to do it. Change your oil. You don't have to figure it out on your own. Mm-hmm. And there's a million videos on YouTube. Some of them are good. Some of them are bad. But there's yep. so much that's accessible now that maybe it wasn't 20 years ago. But there's resources and things that are out there for people. But if you don't know how to do your own books, or you do your own accounting, why on God's earth would you do your own accounting? Mm-hmm. Get help. But it's out there. And that way but it might take you, but if I could do something and I can do it, but it takes me 10 hours, but there's somebody else I can work with and they can do it in 2, why do I need to keep doing it?
Right.
And sometimes and that comes from all kinds of different places, and sometimes we can be control freaks, or we don't know how to ask, or we just don't know how to do it. But like becoming a business owner wasn't natural.
Or it's the thing that I don't have the money to pay someone to do this. I have to
that's a mindset thing too.
Do everything myself to save money.
Yeah. So if you're squeezing the the $1 bill that's in your hand, mm-hmm. then you can't I can't put a 20 in it.
Yeah.
And that's
Time is very valuable. I pretty much do everything. Now I'm starting to, this is one of my lessons. I come from a family of business owners, and they're always like, don't ever get a partner, and make sure you know how to do everything. So even if someone else is doing it, if something happens to them, you can do it yourself. So right now I pretty much do everything. Mm-hmm. But as I grow and start to expand out into things, I'm finding that my time's getting sucked into, I'm on a computer a lot. Yeah. Or I just asked for help today for a website. I was proud of myself. So
there you go.
Maybe I need to hire an assistant.
Mm-hmm. And that's, you'll find the right resources. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to try to do everything yourself, like you can't save your way to prosperity. And then as a business, in order for the business to thrive, you're going to have to find balance. And if you're doing everything yourself, you're going to be out of balance.
Right.
And at some point, if you're the everything for your business and you break down, where does it leave the business?
I think too, if you look back in time, it was like little mom and pop stores. It was like family businesses. Mm-hmm. You did do everything. Like a family member would do each job, but now in the digital age, there's so much on the computer, like social media and website and, different kinds of marketing and Facebook Lives and all mm-hmm. that. And it's like, you can't, it's putting people into this trauma response. You know what I mean? Of, oh my God, I don't have all these resources. I got to put all this time in to learn how to do this. And it's like, you're not getting enough sleep and you don't have enough time to I say you, but I'm talking about me,
Yeah.
that I don't have enough time to do this, to go to the gym, to blah, blah, blah. Then comes the rationalization, right?
That's how it happens.
That is how it happens.
That
So
you're too
what's the
busy.
solution, Mike? What's the solution? Ask for help, get into communities of support, find a mentor.
I think a lot of it is we get so busy running down a path, but we don't ever think about where the path's going. So much of it is getting absolute clarity on what you want out of your life, like what's really, really, really important. And then it's almost like reverse engineer. All right, so if I really want this goal, how do I get there? And then break it down. What do I need to do quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily in order to make that happen? Mm-hmm. But if you just stay busy, maybe you're gonna be working on somebody else's dreams. Like you're not moving towards your own goals. It's really easy to stay busy. But if you get that absolute clarity and you understand why this is important to you, mm-hmm. then that will tell you, what's the saying? If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there.
Yeah. And I did 2 coaching programs this year. They both just ended. And yeah, we were talking about the accountability, going onto the Facebook groups, or I had an accountability buddy in one of them. It's actually Jesse's mom, and that's how we met. And I started doing podcasts, but it was like you have that accountability of checking in with someone, and I could reassess my goals. Mm-hmm. Now that I'm out of those programs, it's kind of like, yeah, I almost feel like at times I'm just kind of wandering. And so, maybe it's time to, I'm getting, in the spiritual community. I was just reading in Natural Awakenings. I was just up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and they have this spiritual magazine everywhere. Yeah. But they have this article about how community in general, it was said, the emerging power of awakening the evolution of community, just talking about in as for our spiritual health, of how we're, because we kind of isolate in our house and because we're like on our devices and stuff like that, that we're losing that sense of how it used to be where, the community came together where you lived, or families live like all over the place. Where I grew up, all of my family was there, it's just so people are doing like online communities and Zoom and Skype and meetups and stuff like that. Or, joining a facility like yours that does have accountability partners, and you go to the same class with the same people, and you're, that we need that. Like our spirit needs that right now, along with our mind. Our mind needs it as well. Yeah. So it's kind of across the board, this need for coming together and all kind of doing this together.
Yeah, because a lot of there's a lot of tech and things that are out there that so a lot of what I do for Digitally Fit would not apply over to because all of my meetings are by Zoom. My clients aren't local. Right. They're all over the U.S. and some are in Canada. But Zoom allows me to do that.
I just banged the thing again. Yeah.
But you need. I think as humans, as people, we need that. You need that interaction with other people, and there's so much that you get out of that. I love being around people. I don't want to be. First of all, if you leave me alone by myself all day long, then that's all the stuff in here starts going.
The junk, the mind.
Yeah.
There's actually we got to go to one more break, but there's actually something called mirror neurons. Bringing some science in, where we need to feel like someone is witnessing us and seeing us, mm-hmm. for us to actually feel like we're existing. It's kind of a new brain cell that they're studying. So that sense of being a part of something and having someone be there and kind of mirroring back to you what you're saying, but before we go to our last break, our badass business is Femme Fatale Arms and Training. And this is Maria's brick and mortar store in West Melbourne. It's geared towards making firearms shopping, education, purchase, and training enjoyable for the ladies. men are welcome to go into the store too. I have personal experience with this store, and the owner, Maria, is, and it is such a well-run, well-stocked, and inviting store. And the staff is knowledgeable and kind. So it was really a joy going in there and just shopping and seeing what they have. So for more information, go to ladiesgunstore.com or call 321-327-3790. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Vinny with the all-new Vinny Marino podcast. I want you to join me every other Monday as we tackle all the craziest headlines from around Florida and truly explore and uncover what's missing. Also, we will invite the exciting guests from our community who have seen it all and aren't afraid to spill the beans about it. And finally, we can't forget about Vinny's top 3 rants and raves about traffic, restaurants, and events. Join us on Facebook as we go live and bring you behind the scenes of each show and let you be a part of it. The Vinny Marino Podcast, all Space Coast, super raw and unedited, straight to your dome all the time, live from the Space Coast Podcast Studios. Listen everywhere you find podcasts.
You're listening to Space Coast Podcast, home of the greatest podcasts on the Space Coast. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor or having your own show, email us at spacecoastpodcast@hotmail.com.
Space Coast Podcast.
Talk hard!
All right, we're back with Badasses, Alchemists, and Mystics. This is Trisha Schmalhofer here with Mike Williams, and we're having some badass conversations about community.
Speaking of badass, so I'm going to take over your segment for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
So this kind of goes back to way back when you and I first met. And you remember that very first workshop that we had?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And we were there, and I had pulled a hamstring and had been struggling with it for about 5 months and had been to, I think, 3, because everybody has a massage therapist.
Right.
Had seen everybody's person, zero relief, nothing was working. And you were doing a hands-on workshop, and the last thing I wanted to do was take away. I was letting all the members have it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had excused myself out of the room for something, and the next thing I know, they bring me back in, and you're like, and you asked me, like, I hear you're having a problem with your ass.
Yeah.
Now, and I'm a complete jackass, and so I totally had that coming. But the next thing I know, I wake up, and I'd been laying I had no idea how long I'd been out, but I passed out. I fell asleep.
Right.
And everyone that was there for the workshop was gone, and you were standing there talking with Tina, and that was how you and Tina met.
Right, I remember that.
Absolutely incredible what you do, and because my pain was gone.
Yeah.
And that was pretty awesome, and that was so when I think of your badass, that's the first thing that comes to mind.
I am a badass.
You really are.
I am.
And that's
badass
but you
healer.
Oh my God, you have helped me immensely a number of times.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, I do. I don't even know. I don't really talk a lot about what I do on these.
You should.
I know. We're going to have, I probably need to have a couple segments where I talk about what I do. Cause
We've
I
sent
do a
one
lot.
or two people your way.
Yeah, one or two. Yeah. Mike is probably my number one referral person. A lot of my clients come from his gym.
Yeah.
That's not saying they all get injured there. And another thing about No Limits Fitness is there's men there, but it's a big percentage of women that work out there, and the environment it's very communal and uplifting. It's not like threatening. Like our sponsor is Femme Fatale Arms, which gears towards women to make them comfortable going in, and some women don't feel comfortable going into gyms, but yours, it's awesome.
They're super supportive, and but actually, like, we won't, like, if somebody's negative or I won't tolerate the toxic. Like that's my Zen place.
Yeah.
Don't think you're going to come in there and funk that up because we'll throw you out. Just not going to put up with that. But most people you've got toxic environments in your life, or like if it's in the workplace and only one person can get promoted, that's not, it's hard for somebody to have your best interest at heart. But at the gym, like they genuinely do, like everybody wants to see each other succeed. If there was something that I was struggling with, and if it's a similar situation for you, then you've got the opportunity to benefit from somebody else's experience. And if that's, if it's, and one of the most common things we see is like a woman who's having a hard time getting her body back after the birth of like a first or a second child.
Right.
And there's so many people that are there that have that exact same experience, and they're going to meet and they're going to relate, and that is going to help them so much more. And that is powerful, is that whatever you're experiencing, whatever you're going through, the chances are you're not alone. And if you can, surround yourself with a culture of people that are, if they're trying to achieve the same habits that you aspire to be, insert yourself into that. Don't try to, don't put yourself in an environment where nobody has those aspirations.
No. Well, and that's, I do energy medicine and work with vibration, and it seems magical, but that's exactly it. You want to be around people you want to vibrate like, you know, you want to, that's actually a thing.
Yeah.
So we have a few minutes, and I want to talk about Digitally Fit. It's I don't know, is it new? Is it a new marketing company? How long have you been doing it?
About 2 years.
Oh, I didn't know it was that long. So what is Digitally Fit? What are you doing with that?
So I help other fitness businesses. For some reason in the fitness industry, there was all these things that I got into way back when we first met that fitness professionals seem to need to know how to do to market their business, that other business owners, like I very rarely have, we got a lot of friends that are business owners, none of them understand all the stuff that I do for marketing. But a lot of fitness business owners have pressure on them to think that they need to learn how to do all these things, and they don't. Like, they're great trainers, they're great in all these aspects of their business, but the marketing maybe not so much, or understanding all the tech that goes with that. And at the request of a bunch of friends that were in the fitness industry, they asked me to help them with their marketing and to do all these things. And the tech overwhelm is just, but that brings in all the feelings of, feelings of inadequacy. Like, I can't do this. And but if other business owners don't have to, why does a fitness professional have to be this just otherworldly digital marketer? They don't. I genuinely enjoy that stuff.
And you are good at it. You've always been good at it. And
so now we can help them. And it's not cost prohibitive. You could get help before, but it was extremely expensive. And now it's not. There's an all-in-one software, and then live one-on-one support with me and an assistant, so that you're not stuck, you're not alone, and we can get you through it. And it's nice because we can sort of take them and give them really, really, really high-level marketing from day one.
And you can work with, this is all virtual, so you can work with fitness facilities all over the world, technically, right? Yeah. And I did look on the website, and there were some testimonial videos, and I watched them, and the owners were all saying kind of the same thing, that they weren't following leads, like people that were interested, they were taking too long getting back to them, they were slipping through the cracks, they had to do everything manually, call them, and it was taking away from what they do best, which is working with fitness or health. I know healthcare professionals, it's the same thing. There's a lot of massage therapists and that they're good at what they do, but they're not good at the business side or the marketing side, so their businesses don't do well. Yeah. So there's a service. This is a needed service out there.
Oh, it's huge. The whole concept of if they build it, or if you build it, they'll come. It doesn't always work out so well.
Because everything's like digital and like a response and a connection with a person that's interested. It's all just kind of happening automatically.
Yes, and so from a marketing standpoint, we can set things up so that if you stumble into my video loop, that you're never going to get out of it. Right.
Yeah. But your videos are really entertaining. Check out Mike's website, nolimitsfitnessfl.com, and his Facebook page. It's just No Limits Fitness is his Facebook page. And he dress up like chickens and elves, and he does like funny stuff. I don't know. You know how to grab people's attention, and they're not like super long videos, and you always have good specials. And
yeah, there's some people on my team that I think they're more, they care more about the entertainment value than my personal dignity.
Yes,
so,
yeah. but a real man can do that. You know how to laugh at yourself and be okay with other people laughing, and it grabs your attention. I watch all your stuff, so it's working. If I'm doing it, it's working. So let's take the last few minutes, and you want to just kind of plug your stuff. Just say how people can get in touch with you. I already just said some, but repeat it.
Yeah, the best way to get in touch with me is on either website. So you've got digitallyfit.biz or nolimitsfitnessfl.com. And but if they're local, looking to get back in shape, we'd love to help them out, support them on their journey, and if they have a fitness business. And we work with brick and mortar facilities, like local facilities, but all over the U.S. and Canada.
Okay. So digitallyfit.biz is where they can see all the places that you're working with. All the facilities you're working with?
It isn't. Yeah, don't list all the facilities out there, but if it's a local, like a brick and mortar facility in the U.S. or Canada, then we can help them.
Okay. All right. Great. Well, thank you so much for being on. Oh, and another thing you do is like 6-week challenges with like menus, and you give everything that they need to do it. Yeah, with the accountability and all that. So it's a really good program. Check it out if you're local. So Mike, thanks so much for being on. This is Mike Williams with No Limits Fitness. This has been fun. Yeah.
You're going to have to come back out. I need you to do another workshop.
Yes, we will schedule one. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time. Next one is 12/15. It's on a Wednesday. It's a special edition with Tasha Chen. So we'll see you then.